All right, here we go. Module 63, part 3 of our video. This is kind of a longer module. There's a lot going on. We're getting introduced to like a whole new thing with macroeconomics, a whole new thing with the economy. So hang in there. You'll get through it. All right, so just like with regular demand, the aggregate demand curve can shift. And if we remember that a decrease in aggregate demand is a leftward shift and an increase is a rightward shift. So just like before, you have your first aggregate demand curve for each one. Well, the decrease or the leftward shift looks like this, and you would label it 82. And then the rightward shift or the increase would look like that, 82 over there. And so what this means is that with a decrease in aggregate demand, it means that people will buy less stuff at all price levels. So we forgot price level and real GDP. Okay. And so, at every single price level that there is, people will buy less stuff. So that is some sort of a decrease in aggregate demand. Decreases in aggregate demand are not caused by a change in price or the price level. It's something else that happened that can cause it to shift. And we're going to go through what those possibilities are. So over here, we can write in that people will buy less stuff at all price levels. And then over here, people will buy more stuff at all price levels. People will buy more stuff at all price levels. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear my son in the background, but he's being kind of loud, so I'm going to yell at him for just a second. Hey, Nico! You're being too loud, bud. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention to you guys that notice you do not need to do pages 648 through 650 of the book. Not on the test. We're not going to worry about it. All right. So here's our little reminder here that real GDP equals C plus I plus G plus NX. And that is equal to that aggregate demand. So if aggregate demand is going to change, you can change aggregate demand by either changing C, I, G, or NX. So if you can change, aggregate demand will change if the amount of things that people buy changes, if the amount of things that businesses buy changes, if the amount of things that the government buys changes, or if exports or imports change. All right, so what can cause aggregate demand to shift? Like what can cause either less people or people to buy less stuff or people to buy more stuff? Well, number one, it's called changes in expectations. All right, so we're going to go through 5 of these reasons. Reason number one, changes in expectations. Consumers and businesses think, feel, or expect that the economy will do good in the near future. If people feel like the economy is going to be doing good, then they feel secure in their jobs. Business owners feel secure that their profits are going to keep increasing. And guess what they go out and do? They spend their money, and which means that aggregate demand goes up. And then if they feel or expect that the economy will do badly in the future, then aggregate demand will go down. And so these are caused, these feelings would be, if they feel that it's going to go good, then consumption will go up and investment will go up. Therefore, aggregate demand will go up. And if they feel it's going to go badly, consumption will go down and investment will go down. All right, next page, page 4. All right, so our second reason that can cause a shift in aggregate demand is changes in wealth. So it says here the value of people's assets go up. Assets are what people own. It are things that they own that are valuable. So the biggest asset that people have, their houses and stocks. So we've talked a little bit about what it means to buy a stock, buy that little ownership in a company. Now, if people feel, here's some more feelings again, right? If like the value of people's houses go up and their stocks go up, people feel richer, they feel more financially secure, so therefore they will go out and buy more stuff, right? So that is consumption increasing. And if they feel like it's worse, consumption will go down, therefore increasing aggregate demand. Why? Because people feel richer or poorer. This is not good advice. This is not how people should think about their money. If the value of my house goes up, yes, that's very nice, but I don't actually benefit from that at all until I actually sell my house. So if the value of my house goes up, that doesn't mean that I should just go out and go on a shopping spree and a nice vacation, because I'm not actually like having more income. But there's those feelings again. Ooh, our assets went up. We feel richer. So we're going to go out and buy more stuff. Again, this is not advice. This is just commentary on what people do, not on what they should do. All right, number 3, the size of existing stock of physical capital. Remember physical capital for businesses? That's like their buildings and any other stuff that they have to buy in order to run their business. So it says here, if firms currently have enough or too much physical capital, they're not going to do investment spending. They're not going to take out these big loans and build new buildings and buy new stuff and expand their businesses. So therefore, aggregate demand is going to go down, or aggregate demand is going to stay the same. And this is because investment spending is going to go down, or investment spending is going to stay the same. And then if they don't have enough physical capital, then they're going to go out and they're going to do that investment spending. They're going to build new buildings. They're going to buy more stuff. They're going to take out loans to do all this stuff. And then that means that aggregate demand will go up because investment will go up. So there is that. So the size of the existing stock of physical capital, meaning the existing amount of physical capital, can influence whether aggregate demand will move or not. All right, number 4, fiscal policy. Right now, I'm just going to explain to you very briefly what fiscal policy means, and then in a later unit, we will talk more detailed about it, but you do need to know these basic definitions of it for now. So it says, fiscal policy says that the government can spend more or less money on purchases and or transfer payments. Remember, moving that money from one person to another person, also known as like welfare. And the government can increase or decrease taxes. So we're not going to focus very much on transfer payments, but fiscal policy is talking about, is the government going to spend more money or less money? And is the government going to increase or decrease taxes? And here we go. If the government spends more money, that literally means government spending goes up, right? The G goes up. And then therefore, aggregate demand goes up. If the government spends less money, government spending goes down, aggregate demand goes down. So that one's pretty simple. Now, when it comes to taxes, we have to go through a couple of steps. If the government lowers taxes, lowering taxes means for a person, right? If my taxes get lowered, it means that I have to send less money to the government and I get to keep more of my money. So if the government lowers taxes, people have more money to spend, which therefore means, sorry, I forgot this part in here, that consumption goes up, therefore aggregate demand goes up. And if the government raises taxes, that means we have to spend, or we have to give more of our money to the government in taxes, so we have less money to spend, therefore consumption goes down and aggregate demand goes down. And you know what? This is not, we should also add investment here because businesses get taxed too, not just people. So let's add investment to that as well. All right, so this is all you need to know about fiscal policy right now, is it's talking about how much does the federal government choose to spend on, and then how much does it choose to tax people. And then to understand, government spending leads to an increase in aggregate demand, and lowering taxes leads to an increase in aggregate demand. Okay, we're finally at number 5, another term that is unfamiliar to you right now, another term that we will go over in more detail in a later unit, but you do need to know these basics about it during this unit. So here it says, the Federal Reserve increases the money supply. Now, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot this part. So monetary policy, it means, so the Federal Reserve, which is a part of the government, it's kind of a strange part of the government, but for right now you can just think of it as the government. They can increase or decrease the actual amount of money that is in the economy, which is called the money supply. They are in charge of whether more money gets put into our economy or less money. Now, the Federal Reserve increases the money supply. Therefore, if they do that, interest rates are going to go down. Why is that? Well, remember our loanable funds market, because when the Federal Reserve puts money into the money supply, that money is going to go to banks, which means that the supply of loanable funds is going to increase, which decreases our interest rate. So actually we can add that. The Federal Reserve increases the money supply, therefore supply of loanable funds increases, therefore interest rates decrease, therefore people and firms borrow more, right? People and firms borrow more money when it's cheaper, when those interest rates are down. So people and firms borrowing more, that is consumption going up and investment going up. Therefore, aggregate demand will go up. And here's our opposite. Federal Reserve decreases the money supply. Therefore, our supply of loanable funds goes down. Therefore, interest rates goes up. Therefore, people and firms borrow less. So that means consumption goes down, investment spending goes down. Therefore, aggregate demand goes down. I want to remind you that this scenario right here goes with what happens when the Federal Reserve increases the money supply. When the Federal Reserve decreases the money supply, then it will look like that leftward shift. Oops, that leftward shift, so supply of loanable funds 2, which as you can see causes our interest rate to go up. All right, we finally made it through Module 3. You guys watched, this is the 5th video that you've watched, right? There were 2 YouTube videos to watch and then the 3 parts of this lecture from me. Now your job is to, of course, do your summary, and I will see you at the Google Meet.